Whether it was the phenomenal debut of Kane or Edge spearing Jeff from 12 feet high above the air, the Attitude Era is full of storylines that fans can't let go of. There's a reason why fans always compare the current era to the Attitude Era, because it was just too good. The storylines, the matches, the promos, and the production all were top tier. And most importantly, the storylines made sense from top level superstars all the way down to the lower card. From The Rock vs. Mankind to Triple H vs. Mick Foley, here are the most compelling storylines of the Attitude Era. Let's get into it. Number 6. The Undertaker vs. Kane. This is not only one of the best storylines of the Attitude Era, but this storyline also has one of, if not one of the best debuts of all time. WWE began building Kane's debut right after The Undertaker's feud with Mankind, which I have covered in my previous video. Go check that out after this one. Back in 1996, The Undertaker got even with Paul Bearer, who had aligned himself with Mankind. Not wanting to let go of the dead man, Paul demanded that The Undertaker join hands with him again. Otherwise, Paul would have revealed the darkest secret of The Undertaker's life to the entire world. When The Undertaker had enough of Paul and his antics, Paul revealed that The Undertaker had a little brother by the name of Kane, and The Undertaker killed his entire family by setting his house on fire. The dead man denied all of this and claimed that he never intended to harm his family. Paul revealed to The Undertaker that Kane was alive and was coming for him. The Undertaker believed that Kane had died, and he was shocked after knowing that his little brother was alive. Fast forward to 1997, The Undertaker was in a heated feud with Shawn Michaels. The two were a part of the first ever Hell in a Cell match at the Bad Blood In Your House event. The match was excellent, but what happened during the match was even more spectacular. From the commentary to the entrance delivering a tombstone piledriver to The Undertaker, Kane's debut was perfect. From that point on, the storytelling got more intriguing. The matches between the two may not have been the best work of each man's career, but without this storyline, Kane would not have existed. Number 5. Triple H vs. Mick Foley. Triple H did some of the best work of his career during the Attitude Era, and a feud with Mick Foley is one of them. In fact, Triple H won his very first WWE Championship by defeating Mankind. Their feud picked up in the early of 2000. Triple H was on a roll with his heel run, and both he and Stephanie McMahon dominated Raw. Mankind, on the other hand, didn't see eye to eye with Triple H. He would usually get his ass kicked by the game, and their street fight was set for the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Mankind knew that he had to change things in order to defeat Triple H, so he reverted to his Cactus Jack persona. The fans loved Mick. He was a fan favorite, and the match he had with Triple H at the Royal Rumble was so violent to the last minute. It's one of the best matches of both men's careers. They had another fantastic match in the form of a Hell in a Cell at No Way Out that same year. Triple H ended up winning both matches, and without this storyline, the game wouldn't have come this far. Number 4. The Rock vs. Mankind. Mankind is one of the biggest success stories of the Attitude Era. Many would agree with me if I said he wouldn't have been successful in the company if it wasn't for the fans. Just like in Daniel Bryan's case, Vince was never a huge fan of Mankind or Mick Foley. He never saw him as a guy who could be a top guy in the company, but the fans thought otherwise. At 1998 Survivor Series, Vince screwed Mankind by helping The Rock win the WWE Championship. In this process, a double turn occurred when The Rock turned heel and Mankind turned face, which I've covered in my most impactful double turns in WWE history video. The fans love a storyline that sees a wrestler getting screwed by the corporate, and the wrestler does everything to get back to the top. Mankind got super over with the fans, and the fans wanted Mankind to take the title off of The Rock. All of this led to a match on Raw in 1999 where Mankind defeated The Rock to win the WWE Championship. The pop was extremely loud, and Mankind reached the top of the mountain, something which was never supposed to happen. The Rock and Mankind storylines have seen these guys have matches with different stipulations, and all of them are great. That pop still gives me chills to this very day. Number 3. Edge and Christian vs. the Hardy Boys vs. the Dudley Boys. The 2010s wasn't a good time for tag team wrestling. The company didn't care about the tag team division, and apart from a handful of teams, there wasn't much focus on that division. I can't say the same about the tag team division during the Attitude Era, as these three teams elevated tag team wrestling to new heights. It began in 1999 when the Hardy Boys defeated Edge and Christian in a ladder match at No Mercy. The match was revolutionary at the time, and it showed that the possibilities of putting on excellent tag team matches were endless. The Dudley Boys entered the field, and all three teams were destined to become the best tag team in the company. They traded the tag titles back and forth, and short reigns didn't matter at the time. The fans were getting excellent matches, and they didn't complain about frequent title changes. WrestleMania 2000 saw all three teams having an excellent triple threat tag team ladder match. They took things up a notch by having TLC matches at SummerSlam and WrestleMania 17. The one that happened in WrestleMania is one of my personal favorite matches ever, and what can I say more that hasn't been said about that spear from the top of the ladder? It's iconic at this point. Credit the Attitude Era for making the fans fall in love with tag team wrestling. Number 2, The Rock vs. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Of course this one had to be on the list. Two of the biggest stars of not only the Attitude Era, but of pro wrestling, like ever. Many forget that the two feuded over the Intercontinental Championship before battling for the world title. Their feud began when Steve cost The Rock his WWE Championship against Mankind. Steve was clearly the number one guy in the company, and The Rock was desperate to take Steve's spot as the popularity of The Rock was growing. The two met each other at WrestleMania 15, where Steve defeated The Rock to win the WWE Championship. When Steve left the company to deal with his neck injury, The Rock became the top guy in the company. And by the time we got to 2001, the storyline got more interesting when Steve's real-life wife, Deborah, was ordered by Vince to be The Rock's manager. Their match in the main event of WrestleMania 17 is considered to be one of the best ever, and the sight of Steve joining hands with Vince shocked the fans. They battled one last time at WrestleMania 17, where The Rock defeated Steve to put an end to this rivalry for good. Without this storyline, WWE wouldn't have been the global juggernaut that it is today. Number 1, Stone Cold Steve Austin vs. Vince McMahon. Now, for those wondering, yes, I believe that the recent lawsuit against Vince has definitely tarnished his legacy. Nobody wants to remember any of Vince's glorious moments because of what this man has done. However, I feel that not including this feud on the list would be a massive disservice to Steve. Without this storyline, there wouldn't be such a thing as the Attitude Era. The chemistry between the two was off the charts, and the segments they had were absolutely hilarious and awesome. After the infamous Montreal Screwjob, Vince accepted the reality and became this heel and evil boss that relished the fact that he was the owner of the biggest pro wrestling company in the world. Steve was the perfect rival for him. The anti-corporate and rebellious Steve beating Vince's ass was always fun. From beating down Vince at the hospital to eventually joining hands with him at WrestleMania, this storyline is one of the greatest in WWE history. It's a shame that nobody will be looking at it in the same light again. Did I miss any of your favorite storylines from the Attitude Era? Let us know in the comments below, and you might also want to check out our last video where I covered the most compelling storylines from the New Generation era. Make sure to subscribe for more.